Okay, I think we can slowly get started with today's webinar. So I see you already found the chat, which is great. So we want to use the chat box for you to interact with each other, network, etc. If you have any questions for me that you want me to address at the end of this webinar, you can use the Q&A box, which is at the bottom or top, wherever it's displayed for you as well. So it says Q&A, and that's where you can ask me questions that I will get to by the end of this webinar. Yeah, so I see we have people from all across the globe joining us. That's great. It's always very nice to see. Today's topic obviously is very current and very important one. I know it's one that we always get questions about, so we thought we'd address it today. Today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence in fundraising. So how can you use artificial intelligence? Which impacts will it have? Which risks are associated with it, etc. This is the first time we're doing this webinar, so we will jump into this topic. I have prepared around, I guess, 40 minutes of presentation, and afterwards we have time for question, and we see where this leads us and how long we'll go today. Yeah, thank you again for joining. I think I will get started right away with the presentation. A couple of words about myself. Doesn't want to, okay. My name is Eva, I'm from Germany. And I've been working with Philanthropia for a long time now, I think 7 or 8 years, mostly giving training, either in person or online training now in the last couple of years. I have a lot of experience in fundraising. I've worked in this field for the last decade, started in Nepal, where I was based for 7 years, but I've also worked with organizations from all across the globe. So yeah, AI is a very new topic. So I always think it's difficult to claim that anybody is an expert yet because there's so many new applications that also open up every day. But I'm trying to stay at the front of all these developments, trying to stay informed. So I hope I can share what we have found to be very useful in our daily work with you today, and some ideas on how you can maybe also use it. A lot of today's presentation is going to focus on ChatGPT because that's one of the easiest tools to use. It's out there, it's free, it's up there for anybody to use. So I think a lot of the presentation, or a lot of the work we also use it for, is focused on this tool, but obviously there's others, and there will be others that will be developed on a rolling basis in the coming months and years, surely. So today's topic is AI in fundraising, opportunities and considerations. And we will start by talking about what is AI, just a quick introduction. Why is everybody talking about it at the moment? What has changed? Then the major part of the presentation is going to be about how can you use it in fundraising? What are possible applications? And then also, what do you have to consider? Are there any risks associated with it? What are things that you have to keep in mind when you want to use AI technologies in your fundraising or in your NGO management in general? So what is AI? AI stands for the words artificial intelligence, as you probably all know. And artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence processed by machines, especially computer systems. Specific applications of AI include expert systems, natural language processing, speech recognition, and machine vision. So we've had artificial intelligence around for a while, and there's a lot of systems that use it. It's around us all the time. And used in some of the appliances we use at home, in our computers, in our phones specifically, and it has been there for a long time. But in the last 6 months, last half year, it has changed drastically because a couple of new applications have gotten on the market, and they really have changed the system. So AI is often associated with this picture of a robot that we also have chosen here. that can help, but it doesn't have to be a robot always. There's many other applications where it doesn't have to take that form of a robot, but obviously that's the easiest to kind of show, make the connection, etc. So why is everybody talking about it now? The huge developments that have happened in the last year, I would say, are that there's systems that have come onto the market and that are openly available now that everybody can use, and where everybody can use artificial intelligence for their organizations or their private use, etc. So at least for me, the first thing I heard about that kind of came into my circles was DALL, I never know how to pronounce that, DALL-E, I think, which is artificial intelligence for pictures. So it's this funny thing, it's the same company, OpenAI, that is behind ChatGPT. You can use word prompts to create pictures, to create visual material. So you type in, you go to the page and you type in, I don't know, I want to show me a picture of a castle under the sea with a UFO on top of it and some horses running around. And then it will make that picture. Sometimes it will look a bit crude, but it will make that picture from you. It will create a new picture. And the same goes for Midjourney. That's also a software that produces pictures and visual material. Both of them are, so I've talked to an expert last week, and he said for producing from 0 pictures of humans, there's still some issues because specifically faces and hands are very, very difficult to reproduce. So sometimes you will, if you say, show me a picture of a man mowing a lawn, then sometimes the hands will look like they were very flat or like not in perspective or too many fingers, stuff like that, because hands and faces are very, very difficult for the computer to calculate. But he also said that he expects that to be solved within the next months. So then we can also produce pictures, which opens up a whole new world, because now sometimes we have problems when we want to use pictures with copyright, etc. We have to ask people for permission to share their pictures. If we create new pictures with AI, maybe those concerns are not there anymore. It's a bit of a gray area at the moment, so there needs to be a lot of regulation scripted out as well to deal with these issues. But all of those are possibilities. Also, if you want to create pictures for I don't know, for projects, for social media, etc., all of those are options now. And then last year, I think it was in November, the big splash when ChatGPT was published, was opened for the public. ChatGPT is what everybody's talking about right now. And again, we will also be talking about it because it's so useful. Then Google followed it up with Bard, their own AI system, where you can talk to the chatbot, kind of. It's not a chatbot in that sense, but you talk to the artificial intelligence and it gives you answers. And that opens up a whole new level, a whole new dimension of asking questions. It's very different than Googling something because it's a system that gives you an answer that can change tone, change tonality, change perspective, etc. So it gives you many, many new opportunities. Then they've already worked on ChatGPT. There's different versions that are more advanced right now. They are constantly working on it, and it's advancing very, very quickly. So all of those systems have come onto the market within the last year, I would say, and have made this huge splash and have made everybody realize that this is something we have to deal with. This is something we kind of have to get an understanding of and get a grip on if we want to set up our NGOs, our companies, whatever it might be, to be flexible enough and competitive enough in the future. So this is basically why this has become such a huge topic now. In expert cycles, it was a topic for a while, but it got into yeah, to the broader public kind of with these publications of these services, and now everybody can use them, and everybody should use them and should at least understand how they can be used. Yeah, so again, the biggest thing, I think, and what we will also talk about today, the easiest to use and maybe the biggest benefit for, I think, small NGOs, small organizations, is ChatGPT. I will keep mentioning it, keep referencing it, because it has so many uses for you. So you have to sign up with an account, but it doesn't cost anything. And then you see this page, and you can send it a message and it will answer. We will look at the live system at the end of the presentation. I will show you a couple of things that you can do where you can easily use this information. So there's a couple of examples here on the front page, things you can ask it. Got any ideas for a 10-year-old birthday party? How do I write computing language? Explain something difficult to me, etc. So the capabilities of this machine are that it remembers what users said earlier in the conversation. So it always includes everything. It's not like with Googling, where every time you start a new process, it allows you to provide corrections. So if it does, it gives you a text and it has a mistake, you can say, this was wrong, can you take it out, can you change it? And it does that. Yeah, and it's trained to decline inappropriate requests, because that was an issue in the beginning. And I think it's maybe you can still trick it, because not everything is programmed in yet. We will talk about that a bit when we talk about considerations and risks, because obviously it's not a human, so it doesn't have a conscience. So you can ask it, or in the beginning you were able to ask it really inappropriate things, and it sometimes answered because it wasn't trained to not answer. So there is some risks associated with it, but we'll talk about that in the end. And the limitations are clearly that it can generate incorrect information. Again, another risk that we will address. And it can produce biased content, harmful instructions, another thing we'll address. And it only has the knowledge of the world and events after before 2021, because the database was kind of fed with information prior 2021, so it has very limited information afterwards. There's one question about sharing the recording. Yes, you will get an email with a link to the recording so that you can share it with more people. No problem there. So this is the start page of ChatGPT. Again, we'll use it. I will have a small demonstration for you later. This is something you can work with. So how can you use ChatGPT in? We'll start with individual fundraising, because fundraising has many areas. Usually when we talk about fundraising here at Philanthropia, we talk about grant writing, but fundraising also means talking to individual donors, talking to major donors, companies, etc. And that's probably for all of you also a very big area of your where you get your money from. You probably don't only get grants, and there's many ways that you can use ChatGPT in individual fundraising, so in talking to individual donors. So for example, you can create copy very quickly. Copy means text. You need text for so many things. You need text for your website, you need text for social media, you need to reach out, you need letters, you need emails, newsletters, etc. And for all of that, you can use this machine to help you to draft all this copy much quicker. Again, you cannot use it to write it for you 100%. You always have to double, triple check. You have to adjust it. We'll talk about why in a bit. You have to change it up a bit, but it can help you to get to that first draft that sometimes is the most difficult thing. This expert, again, I talked to last week, he said ChatGPT is not going to save you and write everything for you, but what it will do is it will save you from the white page, because sometimes that's the most difficult thing, to get started from a blank piece of paper and move from there. And it will save you from that, because it will give you a first draft that you can work off of. It can also give you ideas what to write about, which is a great thing, because sometimes you So I know many of you have a blog or a Facebook page that goes with your organization and you want to produce content, but sometimes we don't know what to write about. Like, what could be interesting? So we go to Google, we try to do keyword research. That's tedious, that's a bit difficult, it takes a lot of time. And sometimes still we don't come up with anything great that we want to say. But ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT, like, what would be a good topic to write about? Or like this example that they had, what can we do for a 10-year-old's birthday party? You can ask the same thing for your fundraising circumstances. No, what can we put into our newsletter if we want to inform people about our project, but also motivate them to donate? They will come up, that machine, that AI will come up with ideas for you. You don't have to take all of them. You don't have to use all of them. Not all of them are amazing, but you will get some inspiration, some ideas. And that's the thing that this can do for you. It can help you speed up specific processes. And yeah, it can help you to get to the point where you have those ideas. It can also help you to change perspective, which is really great, because oftentimes we make the mistake of thinking of these things from our own perspective. So we want to write a newsletter to our donors. So we put in information that is important for us, but is that information important to the donors? Sometimes not. Sometimes they're not so interested in, I don't know, the numbers that are super important for us, because we were focused on those numbers all the time. So we really want to show how many people were there, etc. Maybe the donors are way more interested in that one story of that one little girl that came and changed her entire life afterwards. And you can ask ChatGPT, what are, from a donor's perspective, what would be interesting? Again, it doesn't give you the solution. It doesn't give you the full text. It doesn't give you a text about your own circumstances, but it can give you ideas. You can use it to change the perspective and kind of talk to it, because it's working like a chat. So it comes back to you, and you can tell it, like, think you're a donor. What would you like to know? If I told you this, what would you think? And again, it doesn't look into the heads of people. It's not always 100% correct, but it gives you ideas. It helps you to change perspective, which can be very, very important in conversation with donors. And it's the same with foundations, no? In the end, some person is going to read your proposal. Some person is going to read your email. And if you are able to change perspective, to put yourself in that person's shoes, that's that's going to be super helpful, because then you can get from that cold email to an actual response. You can start a conversation, you can start a relationship. So that's something that is where the ChatGPT can give you great ideas. It can also give you ideas who to appeal to, because sometimes we just think of the people we've worked with for a very long time already, and we're not open for new ideas. But if you can ask it, like, which group of people supports education projects, and maybe it will tell you parents, maybe it will tell you teachers, associations, etc. It will give you new ideas who you can appeal to. Maybe it will give you company names or companies, or just new ideas, new perspectives that you haven't thought about before. So that is a great way to use ChatGPT. And then also social media content, because oftentimes we have the problem that we run several social media accounts, and we have to kind of feed them all with content. And it's a bit difficult because we don't have the time. And but we want to post everywhere, because we have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have a LinkedIn. And you can just tell ChatGPT, like, I've written this article. Can you give me a social media post for Facebook about this article? And it will give you a first draft. Then you can work from that. You can say this, we need an Instagram post for the same thing. It will change tonality. It will change the way it puts it. And you can use that, and you can do the same thing for LinkedIn. So it's a huge time saver. And it can, really help you to get organized in this for your communications with major donors, with individual donors, but obviously also with foundations, because it's the same thing. They will also look at your Facebook. They will also look at your website, etc. So the more current information you have there, the better. And again, I think one of the most important things, easiest things, and most beneficial things here is that change of perspective that it can give you, because you can really, you don't have to put yourself into the other person's shoes anymore, because you can just ask ChatGPT and it will tell you the other perspective. And it will give you so much insight and will help you to make clear how you should address something, maybe which topics to cover, which angle to use, etc. And that goes, again, that goes for companies, for individuals, for foundations, it doesn't matter. It will give you the chance to look at it from a very different perspective, no? And that is super helpful. Sometimes you have to work on your prompts. I will show you a little conversation with ChatGPT later. We will practice this a bit. So you can you have to sometimes change up your prompt, what you ask it, but then you can get very valuable information about what the other person might be interested in, and then you work from there. Again, it doesn't give you the full script, it doesn't give you the full email. You always have to change it up a bit, but it gives you a start, and that is great. What you also have to keep in mind, because that's one of the risks or considerations associated with AI, is that many people are scared that this will take away their jobs. That if you are a communications officer or a fundraiser even, that people are scared that AI will take away their jobs. And I think we're not closely there at all, because what it does, it supports you, and it takes away some of the labor of the menial tasks, like of the stuff that takes a lot of time, but it's not really the game changer. So that can be taken care of by an AI system. Think of it as support instead of a replacement. And no AI will replace your job in the near future, because there's still too many things lacking. You still need the human perspective to change text, to adjust them. You still need to put in the information, the correct information about your organization. You still need that human touch, kind of. That will not go away anytime soon. But it can support you. It can make sure that you don't have to do all this legwork and cannot be creative, cannot focus on anything new. It will take those menial tasks away so that you can really focus on what you want to do, on your creative work, on your project work, developing new things, etc. So it's a support system. Don't be scared of it, but try to incorporate it and to use it to the best advantage of your organization and yourself. There's obviously systems are much more evolved now, and at some point there will be a risk, but we're not there yet. There's always this example from the time when ATM machines were introduced, where that was in the 70s, I think. ATM machines to get money out at a bank were introduced, and everybody thought, oh my God, now all the bank tellers will be fired and they will all lose their job because everything's done by a machine. So the same kind of panic came out of it. But what actually happened was that that didn't happen, but there were actually more cashiers employed afterwards, because banks kind of then had the time, because they didn't have to spend all this time giving out money and not doing anything new, creative, etc., something just a menial task. That time was freed up, so they were able to start offering different services. They were able to open up more branches, which was great for the people, no? Because then they didn't have to go so far, because they didn't have to employ so many bank tellers at every branch. So it opened up a whole new kind of scale of opportunities that were not possible before, because that menial task of just handing out money for a check was taken away. So that time, that fear was really not justified. It's not clear yet what will happen, and definitely there's probably some jobs that will at some point disappear, but others will appear again. And so I think there's many chances in this. And at the moment, it really is a support system that can help you free up some time that you can then use productively for other tasks. Another thing in communications and in also communicating with supporters are chatbots, which is also AI. You probably know those chatbots that you can find on company pages often. When you search for something and then you have this icon on the right in the right corner, and you can click on it, and then a chat window opens and it asks you, can we help you with something? And there's actually not a person answering your questions, but it's a chatbot. That is AI. And that is something you can also use for your charities. Maybe not for the tiny charity that runs one project in a rural area, but if you have a couple of projects and it's not that expensive to develop this either, you can develop a chatbot that gives answers to very common questions. For example, for donors, you could have a chatbot tell them, like, how can we support you? Well, you could donate money, you could donate clothes, you could do this, do that, and then kind of have a conversation with supporters, because a problem often is when somebody's searching for a project, they find you, they think your project is interesting, they want to do something, but they don't get an answer straight away. And unfortunately, human attention spans are super short. So if you have the attention of someone, you should try to use it that very second, because if they have to send you an email and then they have to wait 2 days for you to get back to them, maybe their attention has gone already. Unfortunately, that's human nature. It goes very quickly. So if you have a chatbot system that can immediately jump on these requests and say, you can do this, you can do that, here's a PayPal form, then you can grab people's attention much quicker. And that also is AI, especially for like mid-sized organizations. Whoop. Didn't mean to do that. No, it's stuck. Okay. Now we're back to normal, especially for mid-sized organizations. That can be a very good system. Now we want to talk about AI for grant writing. So everything before was mostly for communications in general and talking to individual donors, maybe to major donors, maybe to companies, etc. But there's also specific tools that have been developed for grant writing, which are very, very interesting, that you can look at and that you can use for your organization. So for example, you can use AI for donor research. Well, I'll show you an example in a minute. It's you can use Chat GPT for donor research. You can go back and forth and find new information about donors this way. So for example, I'll talk about that when I show that slide. Then obviously spell check and tonality is very important. We keep talking in every webinar about proposal writing. We keep telling you, do spell check, don't have any typos, don't have mistakes, etc. So nowadays with these systems that can help you with that, like Grammarly, etc., that's also part of artificial intelligence. And that is super helpful because it will not only tell you like in Word where it says, okay, you have a spelling mistake, but it will even tell you when there's grammar mistakes or when your language is not clear, etc. It's like a proofreader. And that will really help you to professionalize your proposals if you use those services. There's even tools now where you can prepare a first draft for your proposal. I'll show you that in a bit as well. There's one company who has developed that, and it's even free to use for small NGOs, where you just put in information and it kind of spits out a first draft for a proposal for you. A first draft only. That's nothing you can submit, obviously, but it's, again, something to start off. And you can also plan the application process. There's tons of planning tools that use AI that are very useful, especially if you're working in a bigger team, and that you can use and apply to kind of streamline the process. And we'll look in more detail at all of them, but those are things that you can use to just kind of speed up your process and not having to spend all this time on repeating tasks again and again and again. So we'll start with donor research. So this is the simplest application that we found. So the good thing or the great thing about ChatGPT and the OpenAI Foundation is that they have made the API key available for everyone. So this is not only a tool that people can use, but developers can also use the system behind it to integrate it into their own systems. So there's services that do that, for example, that have connected specific donor databases to an AI system. So then obviously the donor research you can do with that is more sophisticated, but usually those services then come at a cost. The example I wanted to use here is just super simple, just asking ChatGPT who or which foundations fund education projects in rural Nepal. Then it already spits out a list of NGOs, of foundations, of donors that have funded projects in the past. It's just 6 here, but then you can also tell it, oh, tell me more, show me 20, and it would show more. It even says so that you have to conduct further research, reach out, everything we keep telling you in all of our networking, research, webinars, etc. So obviously you still have to do that. Sometimes it also makes up information, which is a bit weird. So if it doesn't know an answer, or if you tell it, show me 5 and it can only find 4, sometimes it makes up a 5th. So you have to be careful. You have to double, triple research everything it shows you. But it can give you a start. Again, that's what this is about, a start. And another thing that it can do, I just heard this example yesterday, and I think this is also very useful for donor research, is sometimes you're not so clear what your question would be. No? So in this example, my friend, she's a journalist, and she had to write an article about a garden in Spain, like a public garden, because some king formed that garden or founded that garden like hundreds of years ago, and it's a special thing, and she has to write for a tourist publication. So she wanted to learn more about that garden, and she was Googling, and she was on the homepage of the garden, and she had all that information, but she felt like something's missing. So she asked ChatGPT, like, what can you tell me about this garden? And ChatGPT just came up with a couple of things, and it didn't. Obviously, that's not the information she could use for her article, but it came up with new information that then gave her keywords that she could search for in Google and then find a good quotation for it. And it's the same with projects, I guess. If you don't find, like you work in education in rural Nepal and you don't find donors, or you already checked with all the donors, you could ask it like, how did others fund their project? Or do you have any ideas who to contact for this project? Can you tell me more about education projects in Nepal? And it might come up with information that can then again open your perspective and show you what else to search for. And then you find new ways, new information, etc. So there's many ways you can use this in your donor research to just get more information, just a different perspective, different ideas on where to look further in the future. So that's one thing, very simple thing. Again, there's some applications that link donor databases with AI, etc. But all of those come at a cost, so I didn't include them here because I think you're mostly interested in free tools and sources. So this is what I came up with for donor research. Then obviously spell check and tonality, I already told you. Simple spell check, something like Grammarly, that is also available in a free version. That is AI as well. And that helps you to really advance your language, to make sure that there's no typos, that there's no grammar mistakes, that you can use all of these things and your text looks nice. That's even if you can't afford a proofreader, with the tools that are available online, you can already get very far. For example, when I was writing my PhD thesis, I bought the premium version of Grammarly, and that was enough. I gave my PhD, I've worked on this for 7 years, so I was very dedicated to it, and I gave it to 2 more proofreaders, and they didn't find mistakes. They gave me some feedback on clarity, etc. But this software was already able to weed out most of the grammar and all of the spelling issues. No? So that can really help you to make your proposals look amazing and present with no mistakes. And there's a free version as well that doesn't tell you everything about grammar, etc., but it catches the typos. You can also ask a ChatGPT to write a letter or a query for you. And that is an example that we're going to run through at the end of this webinar, where I want to show you how it does that and how you can also use it to change tonality, change the way you want to address people. So you can write something very formal, informal, etc. It helps you with all of that. It can change the tone. And it can help you to move from simple bullet points to a full text, which is amazing also if you want to write a proposal. Sometimes you just have a list of activities, whatever, or a list of things you want to do, objectives, blah, blah, blah. It can help you to move from that bullet point list to a full text. Again, you can't just copy and use it. There's stuff you have to consider, but it's always a great start. Then you can get even a first draft for a proposal. And this is really a great service that this Charity Excellence Framework offers. That's a UK-based consultancy. They have developed a chat bunny is what they call it, where it asks you 17 questions about your project, and then it spits out a first draft of a proposal. It's a very rough draft, but first thing is it gives you a starting point, and second thing is it really helps you to organize your thoughts, because all the questions are following the structure of a proposal. It's the same questions that you would have to fill out if you have a proposal form, but it helps you to gain all that clarity, and then it puts it for you into a nice coherent text with the sections parted, etc. So that is, again, a great help to get started. It's not, it doesn't give it doesn't give you the full proposal that you can just send to a donor, but again, it's a start, and that's what you want. No, you want to avoid that blank page. So it asks you 17 questions, like what is the mission of your organization, or how would you describe the work of your organization? What is going to change in the lives of the people you work with? What do you want to do with your project? Who do you want to work with, etc. So it leads you through all these questions, and it's actually, going to come up with a first draft that you can then use and work off of it and make it coherent. Then there's also planning tools that you have probably already used, where you can put in tasks and it automatically tells you what needs to be done by when. You have like a work plan, time frame, responsibilities, collaborators, etc. So that can also really help you, especially if you prepare a bigger proposal with more people involved. It can tell you what needs to be done, who has which responsibility, etc. It can switch up your agenda. It can switch up your calendar, etc. Filling spots and making sure that everything is streamlined and that everything comes together. There's tons of tools out there that you can research for yourself. So I've talked about opportunities now, but obviously there's some considerations and risks that we have to look at when we talk about AI. And I just want to give you a quick overview of a couple of those. No, I'm not going to be able to cover all of them. It's something that you really critically have to think about if you want to use all of those tools, because it always means that you give up a bit of control, obviously. But I think the opportunities in them are really huge as well. So I've called this truthfulness. I don't know if that's the correct word. But if you work with a ChatGPT, it takes data from prior to 2021. So anything that happens later or happened later is maybe not included in the database. So it's a bit difficult. It will not be able to show you data, show you information after 21 at a broad basis. Then when it doesn't know something, it might make it up. So again, we've done donor research and we asked like which foundations fund projects in Bavaria. And it came up with a foundation like the Bavarian Welfare Foundation. That doesn't exist. It never existed. I don't know, it just made it up. So you really have to double and triple check everything it spits out. You can never take a text, take research, take information and just copy it from ChatGPT and use it. You always have to adjust it. You always have to double and triple check it because you cannot be sure it's true. And it also, up until now, doesn't show you sources. It does start to do that, and there's specific versions where it shows sources, and you can also ask it to say, where did you get that information from? And you might get a source, but it doesn't give like the full picture of sources where it takes that information from, which is also a bit tricky because you simply don't know which kind of website, which kind of paper it took the information out of. So that's the risk associated with it. That's why we would always recommend anything you take from there, you research again yourself and try to verify for yourself with sources that are reliable, because you really don't want to be using information which is not correct. That's a big risk, I would say, and also something that holds me back from using it very often, because if you don't know if it's 100% true always, it's a risk. And that's I would say that's the other side of not having to work from a blank page. If you have a draft, sometimes our brain isn't as apt to doubt everything that's already on paper. So you really have to train yourself to still, even if you have a draft, check everything for yourself again and make sure that it's correct. Then obviously it's not individual. Well, it is, because it doesn't come up with the same text again and again and again. But one thing that it doesn't do, it doesn't always take your specific situation into account. So in communications, etc., you want to be specific. You don't want to just talk in general terms. You want people to understand your work. You want people to understand your charity. You want people to understand your stories, to feel close to your project participants, etc. So it can't do that, obviously, because it takes information from the web. So you have to tell it. So you have to work on your prompts to say, please include this information. Please include, well, you don't necessarily have to say please, but I'm just so used to talk to people politely. So I also tell please and thank you to the chatbot, but you don't have to do that, obviously. Our organization works with kids below 10 years only. Take that into consideration. Or our board is made up of women only. Take that into consideration. So you have to tell it. You have to give it the information. It doesn't know that by itself. And then sometimes you also have the issue that texts are clearly AI generated. I've heard that a couple of times before from teachers, for example. They say, well, yes, it's a tool that students also sometimes use to create things, but we can read it, we can see it. They say that. I don't know if it's always 100% true, but they say that they notice. And I've had journalists, for example, that said we talk to sources and we asked them a couple of questions, and from 2 sources we got very similar answers. They sound like AI generated. So it is a specific tone. And if you would just use AI content and copy it one-on-one and just share it, at some point people will notice, because there's a couple of words that keep getting repeated, sentence structures, etc. So don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Whatever you take out of these services, adjust it. Put your own, make it sound like yourself. Make it sound like your own tonality. That is very important. It always needs to be adjusted, because otherwise it's just too general and might sound too generic. Then there's ethical considerations. And again, that is a big part of AI. And I'm not just going to superficially talk about this now. There's articles, tons of resources about this that you can read and should read if you really want to work with AI, because it is important to consider these things. One thing that I always ask myself is, where does it take the data from? Because we don't know that necessarily. It was fed with a big database from the internet. But where exactly does it take the data from? We don't always know. So that is an issue. You have to think about that critically. Then I also think it is important to think about protection of content creators. This is especially important when we talk about visual media, because if the artists put their work online and then AI kind of scourges it and for motivation or for inspiration, and then uses the same style, uses elements of their pictures in AI pictures that then can be used for free, of course, that's a problem, and that already is a big problem. And so these are things that we have to think about, because content creators, like AI cannot function without content creators, and we have to, in my opinion, find some kind of way to also compensate content creators for that. And so, for example, the Chat GPT was fed with a lot of New York Times articles, I think it was New York Times and Bostonian, I'm not sure, another big newspaper. And so you can see they were not compensated for that, obviously. It was out there, and it just uses that and uses sentence structure, etc. So I think that is an issue that people have to think about. Then AI can have inherent bias, especially if it's fed with data from biased databases. So we have all those examples that you probably heard of, like that with the recognition systems in cars have more problem to recognize people of color on the street than white people, because probably the database they were trained on had more white people. And that obviously is a problem. It's the same with face recognition. I think men are much more likely to be recognized than women, because there's more the data of men fed into those databases. And that is a problem. We've seen all these examples where like a chatbot got super racist because they drew data from sources that were very racist. And obviously when asked the right questions, they turned to that. All of those things are a big issue. So that's something that needs to be worked on. And especially if you work in the charity area, you have to think about that, and you have to think, be very observant if any of the material you produce is biased, and you maybe have to change it up or check for that. And then this question of employment, we talked about that briefly in the beginning. Will AI replace jobs on a big level or not? And in my opinion, I think at the moment, not yet. Maybe at some point, but then I also think that other things will open up for that. So that's a big discussion, something you have to keep in mind. And you have to be clear about also when you want to introduce parts of this into your organization, so that your employees, your team, etc., doesn't get scared, that they feel comfortable using this technique and don't feel like they will be replaced by it. So yeah, in my opinion, AI holds many chances, but it needs to be used with care. Nevertheless, it's very good if you are at the forefront of this, if you start thinking about these, I don't know why my PowerPoint is acting up today. It's important that you start incorporating these things as they come to the market, because this way you can learn, this way you can always be at the front of these developments and use them as they come along. So I want to show you one more thing. So let's see. Yeah, I hope you can see the ChatGPT form now. I just wanted to show you one idea where I think, especially for many of you, maybe if English is not your first language, this can be super useful. So for example, if you put the query in here for send a message, you tell ChatGPT, can you, or I want to send a query to a foundation to cooperate on a agricultural an agricultural project in Nepal. See what it spits out. Takes a while. See, and then it gives you an email draft that you can use. Obviously, you have to adjust it very much, but it's a start. And again, here, look, when I practiced this before the webinar, it spit out something else. Here it already gives a lot of information about project objectives that we didn't tell it yet. So maybe this is not correct for us. it has, it asks for resources, etc. So it's a very formal request, a long request, and it's a good starting point that you can then work off of. No, it's correct English. It helps you with structuring it. It helps you with the stuff. And then if you want to go in and say, okay, I already know this foundation, kind of, I know someone there, they are not so formal. So you can also tell it, can you make it sound less formal? And then it will change the tone, which is very, very helpful for you. Because then, see, it gives you the text. Here's a quick overview of what we have in mind instead of, here are some key details about our proposed project. No? It gives you ideas on how you can change up this text, this query, so to actually get to someone. No? Again, you should never copy this and send it off. You always have to adjust it to your specific circumstances, but it's a way to get started. And then you can even add more information. So for example, now you could say, our board is 100%, no, that's not percent female. Can you include that information? And see what it does with that now. Now it says here all female board. Okay. Now it includes things like here, we want to empower local farmers with a particular focus on women because we have this all women board, etc. So you can work on things this way, giving it more prompts, saying now you could again make it say, okay, the project, it should have less details, make it shorter. And again, it will make a shorter email. Huh? This is, I think, a great way that you can start using this system to give you ideas, to give you this perspective change, because it knows what a donor wants to see. Not any specific donor, just in general, kind of that target group. No? And from that, you can use this and work on those texts. So now, if you think, okay, this sounds good, you could copy this, put in your name, etc., and add more facts about your organization, add more specifics, make sure that nothing in here is not correct. So here, for example, it's our project aims to introduce modern farming practices. Is that true? Maybe not. If not modern farming, then you have to change it. Enhance access to resources. Maybe provide training. Do you provide training? Yes or no? So you really have to go through every single point and make sure it's true, obviously, and adjust it to your circumstances. But even if this is not 100% true and you have to change it up, it's a good start. It helps you to get started and to get in contact with people. And I think that is the beauty of this. So that was just a quick example. Just jumping back in. Yeah, thank you, PowerPoint again. Not my friend today. Okay, here we are. In the end, we just want to show you another course that we have about online fundraising before we get to questions, because we have developed a full course on online fundraising and the importance of things like website, etc., that all like interlocks with things that I've mentioned today. So usually we sell this course at $75. Today you can get it for $37.50 for 50% off because you joined this webinar with the coupon code webinar 2023. And we have tons of other courses that we have on our page on philanthropia.org. Things like how to fundraise from USAID or writing a project plan, etc. We also have a couple of free resources, finding 50 donors in 10 minutes, stuff like that. So please check out philanthropia.org for further resources about this huge field of fundraising. And again, because you joined this webinar, we want to give you 30% off with the coupon code fundraise. So you can check out any course, and with the coupon code fundraise, you will get 30% off. You will get also a follow-up email to this webinar where we include the presentation and a link to the recording and all this information again, links to the courses with the coupon code, so you can get these resources if they are interesting for you. We also run donordatabase.org, which is a database for donor research, where you can find potential donors. You just put in your country, your area of work, and then it spits out a list of potential donors that you can then further research. So we have more than 5,000 donor profiles available in 197 countries worldwide. So that is really, really useful. You can check it out at donordatabase.org. You can test it for free for 1 week. And after that, it's at a cost, but a very low cost for all the services we offer. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to learn more, make sure to check out the rest of our course program at philanthropia.org. And yeah, now we still have a bit time for a couple of questions. So the first question is, everybody's talking about AI. What are these issues, what are BARD, ChatGPT in relation to AI? Okay, so those are, AI is artificial intelligence in general. It's the word that describes all these services that use technology to kind of compute these processes. And BARD and ChatGPT, Midjourney are all softwares, are all systems that use this idea of artificial intelligence to offer a specific service. So for ChatGPT, it's text. Midjourney, DALL-E is pictures or visual representation. So those are just products kind of that fall under this. So it's like, I don't know if I can find the correct, if you say email services, and then you have Google, Web, Yahoo, etc. So those are companies, those are services under that offer different varieties of artificial intelligence. So yeah, in ChatGPT, you can put in text and say, can you make sure there's no mistakes in here? Can you change the tone? Can you make this sound more engaging? Can you make this sound more formal, etc.? Yeah, it can change the tone of text. So you can try that out if it works for you. But you, of course, you have to be super careful that it doesn't change anything up, no? Because sometimes if you say, make it sound more formal, maybe it might also change the meaning of a sentence. So I would be very careful with that. To proofread, I would use something like Grammarly. That's something you can download and it's in your server. And it's a bit like the word system. It's an application that you have to put on the server and on Word, and then it will show you issues with your text. That was more helpful for me because I wouldn't trust ChatGPT to not change anything big, especially if the text is very long. So I will be careful with that. Could you share with us a few paid websites that help with proposal writing? I don't actually know. I don't know if we have a list of services. We'll see if we have something we can share through email. I don't think so, because it's very difficult. Usually to help with proposal writing, you need a consultant, and that is generally something we don't recommend because we believe that proposal writing is a skill that you should develop within your own organization because you will keep needing it again and again and again. So usually that is something, but we'll think about it. If we come up with something, we will send it out in the email. And I wrote my PhD in English. So that was, I don't know if Grammarly exists in German, I don't know. But I had to write everything in English anyways because I published a lot, so that needed to be in English anyway. ChatGPT, you can just go to the page. You Google. I don't know the exact address right now, but if you can get to the page, start just Google. Just maybe someone of my team in the chat can put the link because I'm not 100% sure about the link. It was OpenAI something. I don't know. And then you just open a profile with your Google account, your Facebook account, or just a new profile with your email address. And then you're there, you can get started. DALL-E is the same service. It used to be free, not free anymore. So you can't do that for the pictures, but you can use ChatGPT, the text version, for free once you have a profile. Yeah, tools for project planning. We will do, I think, a separate webinar on, so we can address all of those, because there's a couple that are really. Oh, thank you, Sarah, for sharing the link. I'm in my PowerPoint, so I couldn't really switch to my browser, so I didn't see it. So yeah, the link to ChatGPT, it's openai.com. And yeah, it's posted in the Q&A session. Thank you very much, Sarah, for sharing this. Okay, that was an hour. I wasn't even sure if I can fill all that time, but no problem with that. Thank you so much for taking part in this. I hope this was interesting for you. I hope you've learned something new. And yeah, if you have any feedback for us, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@philanthropia.org. Again, check out our course program. Make sure you follow us on social media to not miss any future webinars, because we will be talking about these current topics a lot. So make sure you follow us, make sure you have all those bells activated so that you always get our notifications. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy that that was interesting. And again, if you have any feedback to share, if you like this webinar, etc., you can let us know in the chat or via email. We always love to hear feedback from you. And yeah, I hope to see you again in one of our next webinars. And as you see the last comment, we will share the recording and the presentation, so you can re-watch it, you can share it with your colleagues, and yeah, you will still get all the information. Thank you very much, and have a great day, and see you next time. Bye-bye.